Welcome into another episode of Behind the Wheel. My name is Jason Stein, and I'm joined by my co-host and partner here, Flavio Volpe. Flavio, welcome.
Great to join you again.
Great to join you and great to join Linda Hasenfratz. Completely happy to have Linda on the program, who is going to provide her own unique perspective, not only on being the chancellor of a university in Canada, which in and of itself would qualify her for this recording, but also just being an absolute industry icon.
You know what? She worked her way up from the shop floor and every single discipline, and now has helped expand Linamar to be one of the world's top suppliers, diversified in a whole bunch of different disciplines, and really just an icon in Canada in this space.
She tells a wonderful story of basically starting off with that almost the one-room schoolhouse sort of view, now all the way to the billions and billions that Linamar controls. So it's Linda coming up on Behind the Wheel, and couldn't be more excited, Flavio.
Order of Canada, CEO of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year, someone who has walked a walk, and it's going to be really interesting.
Here she is, Linda on Behind the Wheel. What a pleasure to welcome Linda to the program. I have to say personally, also a fellow alum, somebody who, if I would have known back in the early 90s that my future guest would be the chancellor of the school, I probably would have acted a little differently when I was at school. What a pleasure to have you on the program, Linda.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
That's right. University of Western Ontario, as I knew it, and now Western University.
Yeah, it still goes by both names. In fact, the formal name is still the University of Western Ontario. They just use Western University as something a little easier to communicate and from a marketing and branding perspective.
I know you received 2 degrees from there. Let's start there. Could you have imagined when you were a student that we would be sitting here doing this today?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I studied science as in my undergrad degree, and was headed for a career in the pharmaceutical industry at the time. So the decision to shift to move back to Guelph and join my father's company came after I was out working for some time, and decided I shouldn't turn my back on something my dad had created here, which at the time I think we were somewhere close to 100 million in sales. And I thought, if I play my cards right, I could be the CEO of a $100 million company one day. So now we're almost 8 billion. So
I was going to say, not just $100 million company.
That's changed a little bit since then. So it's been an amazing opportunity.
Linda, everybody knows you and you're on here as the CEO of Linamar, and there's a great story we'll go through here. But what was that like when you first went to work at Linamar? Where did you start?
I started on the shop floor running a machine. My dad and I had a long talk about, the whole concept of coming to work at Linamar, and, both of us wanted that I learn the business from the ground up and really, understand the nuts and bolts of what we do and how we do it. And, I'd studied science, so I had an understanding of, science and physics and chemistry and metal properties of metal, but not so much about metal removal, which, is our business and assembly. And so that was really invaluable to start there and really just learn the basics of machining and processing. And I think also the how tough a job it is on that production floor, and, I think it's really important to gain that respect for the people who are out there running the machines. It happened to be July and August when I was on the floor, so it was pretty hot. And yeah, you learn respect pretty fast for the job that folks are doing. And, I think that's been an important lesson to me all along, is, balancing the needs of our people with those of our shareholders and customers. So it was a great way to start.
July and August, how long did you do the job for?
I did. I worked on the floor for about 2 or 3 months. Then I moved into quality. So I was in the quality lab for a couple of months, and then into engineering for a little bit longer. So I sort of moved around to all different areas of the business and gained really invaluable insight into the business from all those different perspectives and the really important roles that every one of those different areas of our business play in, coming together to get high quality, highly engineered product out the door. So, in fact, I found it such a valuable experience that, some 20 years later, we launched a leadership development program where we put our, highest potential young leaders in to do that kind of rotation into different plants, hopefully different countries now that we're in different countries as well. And again, give them that invaluable sort of 360 viewpoint of the business, which I think is really ideal to prepare somebody to be to run a plant. It's just gives you that all the pieces of the puzzle.
What was Linamar like in 1990 when you started there? What was the main line of business for you all?
We were already focused in automotive. So when the company started out in the mid 60s, my father had started out doing some automotive work, but also did aerospace and defense work. And that became a little bit more prominent. And then it was in sort of the mid 80s that he started to really focus the business more so on the automotive industry. So by the time I arrived in 1990, we were already launching some high volume automotive lines. And, how is it different from today? I would say, obviously, today we're much more highly automated. So, at that time, it was, a lot less automation. We started bringing some automation in the ensuing sort of 5 to 10 years. And today, our lines are highly automated, but it was, more manual at the time. But also, the latest in terms of technology. So CNC equipment, my father from the start felt it was important to invest in programmable, flexible CNC equipment that we could program differently for different jobs. So it really gave us the opportunity then, and still does today, to be more flexible in terms of the capacity of our lines, the ability to maximize utilization of equipment. So if a job ends, I can, reutilize that equipment on a new program, make design changes to a component, and be able to reprogram the machine to be able to do that. So that was kind of a founding principle, and that has carried through until today.
Your father's story is a remarkable one. He started the business in the 1950s after immigrating to Canada from Hungary. What are some of your earliest memories of him starting the business and really growing the business? And maybe take us back to the whole idea of him recognizing a solution that was in the market that he could provide.
Yeah. So my father did come to Canada from his native Hungary after the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. So he arrived in Canada the following year in 57. And soon thereafter, he came with a trade. So that's always a great place to start, with to be a skilled tradesperson. And so quickly secured employment. And it was in the mid 60s that he started Linamar. And, for me, the Linamar was started the year that I was born, which I probably shouldn't tell people because now everybody's going to know exactly how old I am. So that cat's out of the bag. But anyhow, and you may know that Linamar is named after myself, my sister Nancy, and my mother Margaret. So that's where the name comes from. And so Linamar has been part of my life since literally my birth. So, wow. I mean, the good news is that the first plant was right next door to our home. So he actually started it in the basement of our home, and then subsequently built, the first facility kind of right next door. So for, a lot of my childhood, that first plant was what there was, right? It was added onto again and again. But that's what I remember. And that's where he worked, which was literally next door. So I feel like we had a great balance in our family, that my dad was an entrepreneur. He was working very hard. But I always felt like he was there in our lives, myself and my sister, maybe because it was so close by. He had a 3-minute commute to work. So, that left more hours in the day. And he always prioritized coming home for dinner and having dinner with us every night. And sure, he probably went back to work after dinner, without doubt. But, I always felt like he was, prioritized having time with us and, prioritized family vacations and, that we spend time together. So he did a really good job of that balance, which, taught me a lot that, I've tried to do in my own life.
When I met your father, probably 15 years ago, Linda, when I was introduced to Mr. H, it was, here is a guy who is one of the founders of this industry. And I always found him to be a humble guy, and everybody who talked about him just spoke with such fondness in the way in which he had a relationship with his team right down on the shop floor. And he's a giant. But sometimes these transitions don't work. But when I talk to people about Linda Hasenfratz, his daughter takes over the business. And in 2014, Ernst & Young said you were the entrepreneur of the year. In 2018, Financial Post said you were the CEO of the year. You've got the Order of Canada, and you're very well respected in what you did with the company in your hands. And the first step for me that I remember is Skyjack in that diversification. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about how you took your father's company, and you're world number 35 now, number 2 in Canada. Tell us about Skyjack and some of those big things that you did with the company in that first 10 years you took over.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not long after I stepped into the chief operating officer role, which was 97, and then president in 99 and CEO in 2002, and started to put a plan together for, our growth. And our focus at the time, which interestingly is still our strategy and focus, was threefold: globalization, diversification, and green technologies. Because even then, even in that, sort of late 90s, early 2000 timeframe, the writing was on the wall that, climate change and the impact of that was going to have a profound impact on every business and every person, and that we needed to be at the forefront of developing new technologies, green technologies, going after green markets, running our business in a sustainable way, in order to take what we saw as advantage of a blossoming market. Diversification, we thought, was important because we have always been a growth-oriented company, and in order for us to meet our goal of double-digit annual growth, we like the idea of having, more than one basket, more than one avenue within which to grow the business. So we like the idea of diversifying, not in a radical way, but still within manufacturing, still highly engineered products, largely metallic based, frankly, but just letting us take our expertise in terms of processing and product design and process design and material development and supply chain management and assembly, and read that across into new industries. So diversification became a key pathway for our strategy for growth. And globalization was really just an element of diversification because it's diversifying into new geographic markets. So taking our existing businesses and expanding them more fulsomely in these other geographic regions. And really, those three elements of our strategy have carried us through more than 20 years as we have been playing that out. So, these were by no means short-term strategies. And I feel like, there's still a really key element in how we're driving our business growth. So you correctly point out that Skyjack was our first major diversification, which we did in the early 2000s. It was a two-part acquisition. We acquired half of the business, which was publicly traded at the time. And then about a year later, we privatized the balance of it. And it's been an enormous success for us. It's just been a fantastic opportunity to do exactly what I just described, to take our strength in terms of manufacturing, lean techniques, lean thinking, purchasing expertise, supply chain management, and into a business that that didn't have all of that fully incorporated yet. So there was a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of streamlining processing, doing some outsourcing where appropriate, and managing the supply base appropriately, and bringing some purchasing power and leverage to the table, and expanding that business globally as well. So it's been pretty exciting. I mean, Skyjack today is over $1 billion in sales. When we acquired them, they were between 100 and 200 million. So, we've increased that business fivefold. And it was a great experience. And really, as we continue to globalize our business, diversify our business, we really look to replicate that model. And in the last decade, we've made a couple of acquisitions, for instance, in the agricultural space. So we bought MacDon, a company headquartered out in Winnipeg that makes harvesting equipment. We bought another company, Salford, actually headquartered here in Ontario, that makes tillage and crop nutrition products. So, we've been sort of slowly building up our agricultural business as well. And we do intend to continue to diversify. In fact, we have a 100-year plan at Linamar 2100, which is continuing on these themes of globalize, diversify, and green technologies in 6 markets, 3 of which we're mainly in today, which is mobility, infrastructure, which is the access business, Skyjack, and agriculture businesses or food business, as I've just described. And other areas we're interested in expanding into include medtech, as well as water and power related industries, all of which were conceived based from us in terms of the strategy, based on trends that we saw evolving around us that we thought had decades of impact, green technology being one, and the imperative that we address the climate change issues around us, but also a growing, urbanizing, aging population, and what is the impact of all of that.
You're a long way from that factory that was next door to the house, I'll tell you that. And even one of your more recent strategic alliances done in 2021 was with Ballard Power Systems. Yes. And the co-development and sale of fuel cell powertrains and components for Class 1 and 2 vehicles weighing up to 5 tons. That's initially in North America, but also in Europe. And I'm sure you have plans to continue going down that route as well, right, Linda?
Yeah, absolutely. We are big believers in hydrogen as being the future of mobility. Mm-hmm. And our relationship with Ballard is really just the first step down a road towards developing products for hydrogen-based vehicles, whether it be fuel cell electric vehicles or combusted hydrogen, which is starting to get some momentum as well in the marketplace, particularly for commercial vehicles. So, we're really excited about the whole transition that's happening in the mobility industry as we move towards electrification. I mean, I think personally it's the most exciting time in history to be in the automotive industry, this huge transition that's going to transcend decades and create more opportunity than we've ever seen as we evolve first to hybrid electric vehicles, then battery electric vehicles, and ultimately fuel cell electric vehicles. So the relationship with Ballard is an important one in terms of positioning us around the whole power side of powering a vehicle and creating that power. At the same time, we've developed a hydrogen tank for storing the hydrogen in the vehicle. That's a critical element in that overall system with Ballard, because our hydrogen tank is very low profile. It's like a series of low profile tanks that are connected together and can really maximize the utilization of space in terms of the amount of hydrogen stored in the vehicle. So we can increase the amount of hydrogen stored somewhere around 25 to 35% more hydrogen. So a great complement to, you know, the overall concept with Ballard, and working on a variety of other things on the fuel cell electric vehicle side to support the transition that we see coming probably more so in the 2030s is when I think it'll, you know, hydrogen will start to have a more important, meaningful role. I sort of see the 2030s for fuel cell electric vehicles as what the last decade have been for battery electric vehicles.
You made an exciting announcement in Welland, Niagara region last month, and I think it speaks to your view on what the next 5, 10, 15 years look like. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So we announced the establishment of a facility. It's a high pressure die-cast facility for light metal, for aluminum, state-of-the-art technology. It is so-called giga casting technology, which is really, you know, any high pressure die-cast machine that's over, there's debate, but somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 tons of capacity. What we're investing in are 6,100 ton machines, which have the capability of casting much larger, lightweight components, largely for battery electric vehicles. So, you know, as we know, weight is a real issue in the battery electric vehicle, thanks to the, you know, extreme weight of the battery pack, you know, 800 to 1,000 kilo of weight there that, you know, we need to offset some way. So, you know, whatever we can do to try to reduce the weight is meaningful. So, for instance, the first component that we will be launching in the facility, the original design would have been 35 different parts and 72 kilo, and this part is only 40 kilo and 5 parts, so much less complex, much more lightweight, which is exactly what's needed in a battery electric vehicle. So we're pretty excited about having that capability for these kind of structural castings, lightweight castings that are replacing heavy stamped steel assemblies in the vehicle. We are the first supplier in either North America or Europe to invest in giga casting technology. So we're pretty excited about that. You know, some OEMs have the capacity, obviously, but nobody in the supply base yet. So we're seeing a lot of interest from our customers in terms of this capability, which is pretty exciting.
Give me your view of the health of the auto industry right now. I mean, you've had such a ringside seat for all of this. Where are we right now in the?
You know, as I say, I think there's more opportunity than ever in the industry because of this big transition. But I think that, like any situation where you have a massive transformation, there's probably going to be winners and losers. Because you need to have a company that embraces change, embraces new technologies, is investing in product and process design and material development in order to, be there for this transition. For us, we also, so obviously we're doing all of that. But also we've tried to develop a strategy that is very flexible, because to me, when you have this kind of transformation, the one thing you can't do very efficiently is predict what's going to happen, which technology, how fast, there's all kinds of predictions out there. But without doubt, they're all going to be wrong as technology continues to evolve and we see how the market adopts this big transformation. So what we've tried to do is develop, and have successfully done, in fact, is develop an equivalent level of content potential in every type of vehicle propulsion. So whether it's internal combustion, hybrid, battery electric vehicle, fuel cell electric vehicle, we have the same dollar value of content potential. So if the market goes this way, we're ready to go that way. If the market goes another way, we're ready to go that way. And as I was mentioning earlier, we are very focused on flexible, programmable equipment that we can reallocate to any of those different types of products in many cases. So that has allowed us to stay flexible and will allow us to remain flexible, importantly, in the next 10 to 20 years, which is, I think, going to be this critical juncture. So, I think you have to be able to embrace change, you have to be ready to invest, and you have to, be flexible in your strategy and your equipment and your skill set of your people to get through this transition. So I think there's probably going to be winners and losers through that. But it's, as I say, one of the most opportunistic times in history to be in this industry because of all that change. So, if you can build your strategy the right way and make the right kind of commitments, then I think the sky's the limit.
Linamar products in some pretty exotic cars around the world. I know you've got some great customers. What was your first car? What did you drive first?
My first car, back, I think when I was in university, I bought a Chrysler Daytona. It was cherry red. Caught every police officer's attention from Guelph to London on the 401, unfortunately. So that was my first and last red car.
Nice and subtle, two-seat, two-door sports coupe.
That's it. It was great. I loved it.
And I know you didn't intend to go down this path. It was you, as you explained earlier, you had a different path. But do you consider yourself a car person now? Are you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny. My husband is a New Zealander, and we have a home there, and he runs a very successful construction and development company here. But we also have a couple of farms in New Zealand that he overseas from here as well. And so we were visiting New Zealand, and he had bought a truck for the farm. And he said, "Oh, the truck's almost done. Do you want to stop in and take a look at it? We were going to pick up some friends from the airport." And I was like, "Oh, they're not going to want to stop and see the truck." And he's like, "Oh, it won't take long. It's on the way. Let's do it." So we get there, and then I see this truck, which I don't know if I'm supposed to name brand names, but it was a Volvo Mack truck. And I was like,
Sure.
Hold on a minute. I think we make the block for Volvo and Mack. I think we might make the block for this engine. So before long, we had the hood cranked open, and I had crawling inside to see if I could find some of our components, and they were there. So I was pretty excited about that.
Oh, I love it. 2018 Financial Post Canada CEO of the Year, also the Chancellor at Western. What a pleasure to have you on the program, Linda.
Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Great to see you, Linda.
You too.
thank you, and best of luck the rest of this year and beyond in your 100-year journey. We'll check back with you around the end of that time frame.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you.